Mystery of the Mary Celeste ghost ship. More than 150 years later, the mystery of the Mary Celeste ghost ship is still unresolved. An old ship named Mary Celeste was discovered in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, loaded down with provisions, but empty of all crew members. So began one of the longest-running marine mysteries. Also, historians and researchers were unable to solve the ship's riddle. In the absence of a captain, the Mary Celeste is said to have been cruising toward Genoa for 11 days. The Mary Celeste was abandoned, and Captain Briggs, his family, and the crew were never located. Cause of the abandonment has never been established. Since that horrific event, the Mary Celeste ship has gone by various names, including the ghost ship, the haunted ship, and others. The American ship, originally named the Amazon, was created in 1860 at the Nova Scotian village of Spencer's Island. The Mary Celeste was a dual-masted ship that was more frequently referred to as a brigantine back then. The ship was rescued in 1867 and given to a maritime firm with headquarters in New York. It was renamed Mary Celeste and placed under the command of Captain Benjamin Briggs. The ship had a crew of 8 persons in addition to Captain Briggs and his family, which included his wife and daughter. Mary Celeste mystery. A double-masted Mary Celeste sailed from New York Harbor in 1872 in the direction of Genoa, Italy. The British brig Dei Grazia, which was traveling in bad weather on December 5, 1872, spotted what appeared to be an abandoned ship drifting through the Atlantic Ocean near the Azores Islands, which are located about 1,000 miles west of Portugal. The Mary Celeste was empty when the crew of the Dei Grazia boarded it. Everything was in immaculate order, even the crew's clothing was carefully tucked away. The only indications of the absence of individuals were a missing lifeboat and a disassembled pump in the hold. There was no evidence of human life on the brigantine after inspection. It was filled with food and water, though, and it was later calculated that there would be enough for more than 6 months of life. Aside from the missing lifeboat, the ship appeared to be in good condition. One of the most talked about maritime mysteries of all time resulted from the lack of evidence of a natural disaster hitting the ship or a crash. The reason why the crew members of the ship left is currently a mystery, given that the ship was also flawless, the weather was ideal, every member of the crew was trustworthy, and there was enough food and water on board for 6 months. Since all of the crew members' belongings were identical and there were no signs of looting, there was no pirate raid of any type before the captain's family and other crew members mysteriously vanished. The mystery surrounding this ship's hidden secret has eluded everyone up to this point, and it is unlikely that anyone ever will be able to. Mary Celeste's dark history. The ship, which was first known as the Amazon, has a long history of notoriety and has been responsible for a number of tragic incidents involving the crew. When the first master of the ship, Robert Mac Lennon, fell ill and died, it was said that the devil was on Mary Celeste because the early commanders of this ship grew so sick that any time they coughed, blood would run out of their mouths. There is a shadow, and its influence was so great that during its voyage, either this ship had to suffer significant losses, or else its owner's condition would have gotten worse, and as a result of repeated maritime mishaps, the owner of this ship changed. Because it was a cursed ship, its owner either became sick, died, or lost everything. The Amazon was entirely destroyed by a storm in 1867. The owners had to leave it on the Cape Breton Island shore because the damage was so severe. Alexander McBean purchased the debris and rebuilt the ship, giving it the name Mary Celeste. Since then, the ship has had a few different owners, before coming to Benjamin S. Briggs. Mary Celeste, crew vanishes from the ship. The crew of the Dei Grazia investigated further and found that there was no one aboard the Mary Celeste, and that the last entry in the ship's daily log was made on November 24. Despite this, the ship was still seaworthy, had a majority of its cargo intact, and had enough food and water to last for 6 months. It was also noticed that the Mary Celeste's crew had forgotten their smoking pipes. David Morehouse, the captain of the Dei Grazia, explained that this was an indication that the crew had fled the ship in a panic. In addition, the ship's lone lifeboat, clock, and sextant were all gone. There was no sign of a mutiny, nor had the Mary Celeste collided with a ferocious tornado or wave. It was also unlikely that the alcohol cargo had exploded or that the crewmen had been violent after consuming it, contrary to one notion. Many people think that all the crew members were vanished as they were taken by the alien ship. Fans of fiction came up with tales that included everything from a sea monster invasion to a pirate onslaught. The 1,700 barrels of crude alcohol Mary Celeste was transporting at the time, according to those who were more inclined toward science, may have contributed to the accident. This occurrence has been the subject of numerous stories. Numerous tabloids have attempted to retell the narrative using the evidence found on board, but nobody has been able to develop a convincing theory. What actually occurred that day is being buried further and deeper as time goes on, and stories about the Briggs family's disappearance, nobody still knows.